$1, split it 4 ways. Credit in the store, needles on the floor. If I had one wish, I wish for more. What's going on, y'all? Welcome to another episode of How to Beat the Streets podcast. Oh man, I'm so happy today, man. We got a special guest in the building. You know what I mean? My own college friend, actress, producer, creative mastermind, and a woman of God. Everybody make some noise for Juliet in the building.
Hey, what's up? Oh my God. Thank you.
I know you've been doing your thing for a minute, so I ain't just gonna be, a walk in the park for you. But how you feeling today?
I feel good. Honestly, I feel so good. First of all, I'm really proud of you. Let's shout out Ramel. I'm really, really proud of you. I mean, we were chatting just before the podcast and just everything, just to see the elevation, the growth, to see what you're doing is amazing. So thank you for having me. I'm super honored to be here. Just goes back from like Buff days to now. It's just
salute Buffalo State.
Yes, Bengal pride. It's just like we were saying, a full circle moment, right? So yeah, this is amazing. I'm happy.
All right, so let's kick it off. So here on the show, How to Beat the Streets, we always get started with a quote. The quote we got for you is, "Faith is taking the first step, even when you don't see the whole staircase." What's that quote mean to you?
Yeah, that's actually a really good one, because I do think that, to be honest and just being fully transparent, I feel like my whole entire creative journey was just faith, right? Like just having an imagination and the vision, but I didn't really have everything in place. I didn't have any connections. I didn't come from some world of media or, actors or anything like that. So I didn't have a blueprint or anything to kind of go off of. It was just literally the vision God gave me and just figuring it out as I go, So I definitely think that to me is, it says a lot of just you being able to push through, even when you sometimes can't really see everything. But, you trust the process. I think that's what we have to remember the most out of it.
I like that. And then for me, it's like, I always think about the fact that I was a criminal justice major. And like last minute, I decided to go on a Teach for America interview. And at that time, I couldn't see, the whole staircase. I didn't even understand what could happen for me if I took that opportunity, but I took it. And man, the staircase has been beautiful.
And it's a risk, right? Everything you do is a risk. Like, you don't know, like you said, I went to school, I studied fashion merchandising. I wanted to be a stylist for the NBA. I wanted to do, I loved men's fashion. I wanted to do fashion production, and it's funny. I used to work with stylists and stuff, and they were just like, "You're actually not that good at this." And I was like,
that's different.
I was like, what? He was like, you should do production or do something else. And that actually was hard to hear, but it actually taught me, like, okay, you can still love fashion, but maybe this isn't exactly where I need to be. And it was the push I needed to kind of pivot me to where I really wanted, to be in. So.
Okay. All right. Wow. It's crazy that they just going to say, yo, this is not you. But sometimes we need that in our life. Sometimes
we need that. It's the harsh, we never want to. And I think that's the thing. We think everything should be roses and butterflies because this is a hobby, because this is what I love. Not everything, is always going to go the way you want. But then now I see how I'm doing fashion and still doing other things, but it probably didn't come from the way I thought it was going to come. So I think, don't ever be discouraged. But at the same time, God probably knew I needed to start in the media space and then come back to fashion,
Okay. All right. Question of the day.
Yes.
So now that we have been removed from college for a little while, was it worth it?
Yes, it was. It's so funny. I talk to people all the time. I'm like, honestly, Buff Day was like the best 4 years of my life. Like, honestly, I just feel like it was more than school.
Yeah.
I learned so many things that I don't really think school could have even taught me. But being away, I always encourage people to go to college, or even if you don't, know what you want to do, still go, because the experience, the friends, the network, everything that you get from school and college is incredible. I would not change a thing, man. I mean, and I feel like we were involved. We did so much in school. We were active. We participated in so many things.
That's
so
true.
Take advantage of it.
Shout out to FSA.
Shout out to FSA. Like, we did so much, it was just like such a golden era.
All right, so for 12th grade, I have a lot of students that tune into the show as well. So for like a 12th grade student, now knowing what you know, what would you tell them to do, so they could like go in there maybe a little more focused?
Yeah, that's a good one. I would definitely say just don't compare yourself. Like that's a big one. I think 12th grade, I just feel like, well, especially now, there's so much pressure. There's so much comparison culture, and there's a lot of things heightened. And sometimes you could feel a little lost, like, or you feel like I'm not enough, but just to really trust the process and, really believe in yourself. Even if your friends are doing a different major, like 12th grade, all my friends weren't doing, like they were going to school to do other things. I was kind of like the only one, but you got to trust yourself and really believe that, what, if God gave me this vision, if this is what I really want to do, I'm going to do it. And if I decide along the way I want to change it, that's fine too. Change is okay too. You don't have to stick to just one thing that maybe your parents say that you have to do. Really find what you really believe that that's my purpose, and go for it. There's a lot of possibilities out there aside from what we may think are the norms, so just really push it. They have way more than what we had probably, so take advantage of it.
Oh, I like that. Great advice, man. Hope y'all listening.
Yes.
All right, we already kicked it off, so we're going to slow it down a little bit.
Yes.
What's your name and where you from?
Yes, so my name is Juliet Amwa. I was born in London, and I came, yes, in it. I was born in London, and I grew up in the South Bronx. Shout out to South Bronx 161. You already know Yankee Stadium. And my parents are Ghanaian, so I'm African. So I feel like I just had a little bit of, just a little different type of upbringing. But so I'm West African. I'm from Ghana. I consider myself Ghanaian. However, I was born in London and raised in New York. So.
Oh, that's a lot.
It's
a gumbo pot right there.
It's a gumbo.
So what you currently doing? What you got going on?
Yes. So I actually just finished, we just did a movie premiere. I did my first movie. I was an executive producer, co-executive producer. I also kind of helped direct it. I actually starred in it, which was just so unintentional. And we actually did a movie premiere in New York City for it, the film is called Lisa. It's a short film called Lisa, and I'm so proud of it. Like I just couldn't be any more proud. And I also have a brand that I also work with, Relationship Essentials. So the whole brand is pretty much about doing relationships God's way. Shout out to Ramel for coming through to our Connect night.
What's up?
Yeah, that was really dope. So, the goal is really to inspire, right? Like I think I'm inspiring people through film and through the arts, and then also through the God part of it. So that's kind of my two worlds right now, aside from all the other little projects and stuff.
All right. Now how to beat the streets. We're gonna get into a lot of things that you went through that you was able to overcome. So, for one thing that I noticed just from, knowing you, like, how did you manage, like, one, growing up in the South Bronx? We know it's a lot of stigma with growing up in the Bronx.
Of course.
And also being, African and maybe, like, your family is, hard on you. That's what they normally say. Like, your parents are tough on you, but you also in the Bronx where it's a lot of freedom. There's a lot going on. So you had to navigate that. You in Catholic school. So how did you... navigate just growing up in the streets of the Bronx after being from Ghana, London, all that?
That's true. And, that's such a good question that I don't think we talk enough about, I think for my brother and I, when we first came here, it was, I think because he was older, it was way more of a culture shock for him. For me, it was also, you have a little accent, so I didn't understand why the kids at school were like, you talk funny. I'm like, hello, my name is Juliet. Can I get a glass of water? And they're like, what? Water? Like, they're like, you're saying it wrong. Like, the girls in the Bronx. So I felt a little like, okay, now I know there's something a little different because of how I'm talking. So I don't understand why they're making fun of me. And I also didn't understand, too, just, again, the culture and just the differences of it all. Because when I went home, it was different. It wasn't like what everybody else was going through in the schools because my parents are African. So certain things, they were like, listen, you're an immigrant. You're not from this country. You know what I mean? So you can't do what everybody else is doing. So I think my parents, aside from just, us wanted to be again, growing up in the 90s or the early 2000s in the South Bronx is, it was tough. My parents were really tough on us, making sure we didn't go outside and do everything. My brother and I still, we did our thing. I want to play double dutch. I want to, go to the fire hydrant and, go chase the ice cream man or whatever, but I do think that it wasn't easy because we also too weren't from here, so we were also learning and trying to adapt to the culture of New York, and we wanted to adapt quickly. We didn't want to stand out, so me, I was like, look, I was kind of doing what the girls is doing, I started picking on people and I realized, like, to me, I'm like, that wasn't even you, but because I wanted to assimilate so bad and I wanted to be, not seen as the oddball out, you kind of adjust to your environment a little bit and you kind of make mistakes and you kind of do things that, like, I got into fights, right? Like I remember we were talking, I got suspended from school, like, you know, and fighting in like the lunchroom over, I don't even know what, you know? And I remember my father was so mad. He's like, no, what is wrong with you? Like, this is not how we raised you, you know? But again, I'm not saying it's because I grew up in that environment to say, you know, I have my own issues, but you could just see how sometimes you could be confused, you know, because you don't want to show your house side that I'm African and I do that because I don't want the kids making fun of me, you know, and then you also don't want to also not deny that I am African because I'm proud of that, you know. So it was a lot we had to really navigate through during that time. And
that leads me to my next question. Growing up in Harlem, you know, it was a lot of, you know, African people, you know, in Harlem. So we all was blended together in Harlem. And I had a friend who actually got incarcerated when we was young. And I remember his mom like breaking on him, like, because it was like, you know, she taught him so much structure and discipline that she was like almost shocked when she realized who he really was in the streets. So I want to know, like, how was you able to like stay focused and not, you know, lose to the whole American culture and, you know, the image that they try to portray on a lot of us black people. So how did you not get, I don't know, how did you not lose your identity, you know, and stay focused, because you did end up going to college, graduating, and doing your thing. So let us know how you was able to, you know, stay focused. I mean, I definitely think it goes back to your parents, right? Like that foundation, like our household was very much heavy Ghanaian. The food, the music, everything, our cousins, everything was just embedded in the culture. You know what I mean? So who you were in the classroom or outside of that was like, don't get it twisted. You know what I mean? Like, you know where you come from. You know what we going through in this house right now. You know what I mean? Having strong parents is one. Yeah, having strong parents was really key. And our parents just really pushed in us with faith. Like, that was a big thing. Like, you could not miss church. You know what I mean? Like, that was a huge thing. So I think instilling that faith in us from a young age and just kind of remembering who we are, you know, in terms of like, look, at the end of the day, my father used to always be like, you can't do what they do, because something will happen to them, they're fine. You're not from this country. Like, you know, he really emphasized that, you know, that we don't have some of the luxuries or privilege that, you know, maybe the kids that went to our school did, right? So I think that was a big piece of just remembering that, okay, this is who we are regardless. You know, yes, our friends are American or whatever. And I think the other piece too that I think that I was so confused on, and I just never understood why the like American kids used to be making fun of the African kids. That used to they're like, oh, you African booties, like they used to terrorize these kids, and I'm like, I don't want to say I'm African and they come, you know, beat me up. Like, I'm already not from this country. I'm British, all these different things, you know, and obviously it was a reflection of what they saw on the media, right? You see the African kids with flies on them, looking hungry, all these things, you know, it wasn't really portrayed the beauty in Africa. So I feel like that disconnect also made me also look at it like, wait, I remember who I am, you know, like I'm not American, you know, per se, even though I have a lot of friends who are, and I also didn't understand why they would make fun of my culture too, you know, so it was just a lot of things. But I do think it's also just a lack of education and just ignorance on everybody. Because now you see it's like a big, you know, people love it and they embrace it. And I love to see that, you know. There's a lot of people trying to blend it now, like blend the African-American culture with the African culture. And that was one of the biggest things I wanted to talk about today also. Was like, where did this disconnect come from? Because I thought about it like, man, hold on. I did my little ancestry.com.
Oh,
you know
did?
What I mean? Yeah,
wait. What was your percentage?
It was 47% Nigerian.
What?
Yeah. Hey. This is new on the show, so we dropped the bomb. You know what I mean? So
my Niger brother now.
Cameroon. You know,
wow.
Coming from the Cameroon tribe.
Wow.
All I was in there.
Did you have any Ghana? Did you have any Ghana?
It was like a low percent.
A low percent,
but the biggest percent was Nigerian.
Wow.
And I was like, okay, so I am African.
Yes.
And the thing is, like, I'm always trying to figure out, okay, so if we all African, right? How did your grandmother still end up in Ghana or Nigeria, but my grandmother end up in Harlem? You know what I mean? Like, where did that disconnect from? Like, did your family not be taken as slaves and just my family was the ones? Like, where did that disconnect come from? And why are we so separated? If we all really, you know, Africans when it come down to it. Yeah, I definitely think that's a really good point. I do definitely think slavery, obviously, you know, plays a huge role in that. And I also do think that, you know, it's sad to say, because I do have a lot of friends who are African American and they feel as though, right, like they don't have a true culture, right? Like, their culture is whatever they were raised from, you know, and obviously if you are African or anything, you have a different type of culture. And I do think that
the disconnect, I think, is when, again, it goes back to the ignorance, right? So if I am, and I'm just being real, if I'm somebody who sees Africans, I've never seen this. The food you eat is different. We're black, we're the same color, but we don't seem the same. And everybody, naturally when things are different and you don't understand it, you easily can just be like, well, what is this? And it goes back to the same thing. I think with Africans, right? Oh, these Americans that are, the stereotypes that people have projected, or what they see on the news, or, this African American or this black kid was, or you see all the black kids that they're just gang bangers or whatever, or you see all the Africans, or they smell, they whatever, all these negative stereotypes. And it's sad because I think that's where it brings the division, because we all grew up together, right? We were all living in the same environment, but I just feel like we were never able to really mesh as much as we are now, which is beautiful. And I also think the music, right? You see Afro beats, you see the connection, you see Davido doing collaboration with Chris Brown and all. That's beautiful. It's happening now. Yeah, you really see that. And I'm like, wow, that to me is beautiful. We really are all one, you know?
And sometimes I wonder too, right now I want to travel to Africa, but
yes.
I don't want to go out there and the stigma of what I see out here.
Yeah.
If I go out there, I'm gonna feel like they're gonna be like, oh, you're not African.
They will embrace you. They'll be like, oh, brother, come.
All right, so we gonna keep that on the list.
We gotta make a trip.
All right, so look, when I thought about having you on the show, one thing I always knew about you is you had a real strong faith. You know what I mean? We was in college, but I remember you let's pray over the food. God bless you. And I'm like, hey, he had a certain type of,
thank you,
godly manner around you. And I was like, and you kept that up, even all the way up until now. And for me, one way to beat the streets is having a strong faith or having a relationship with God.
That's true.
And I feel like a lot of people lack that, especially when you coming from rough environments. And I feel like even when you're young, I don't know why a lot of 15-year-olds, 16-year-olds are not, into church or praying and stuff like that, because I feel like the younger you establish your relationship with God, I feel like your life can change much faster, So we're going to get into that a little bit. So when did you first start forming a relationship with God?
And I think that's a really great question, because I think for me, even though I went to church my whole life, and my parents were in church, I mean, I would just go. Honestly, I just love the snacks. They used to be giving them goldfish. I'm like, oh, I want to go to Sunday school. I'm hungry, But I realized that I always knew there was God. I always believed in Jesus and things like that. But it's a funny story, but not funny. As I told you, I don't know where this fighting thing used to come from. I used to be getting in fights, like me. I'm like, why am I fighting? Come on. But I remember it was 6th grade, and I got into this fight with this girl. Oh my goodness, it was so bad. It was a really bad fight. And this was actually the first time that I really encountered God. Is I went in my room and I was just praying. I was like, God, please, I don't want to get in trouble. God, I got suspended the year before and now I'm fighting again. God, if you could just make this go away. I don't want this to be a thing. Cause the girl was loud. She's like, next day it's going to be on. And I'm like, oh my God, my father's going to kill me, So I prayed in my room, and the next day, I don't even know, that's when I actually probably went to the bathroom, was tearing up. The next day she came and apologized. Wow. I'm like, this girl is not somebody who would ever apologize. We all were there. People saw the fight. They were like, come on, you a punk. What are you going to she apologized. And that's when I really first had my encounter with God, where I'm like, God, you really heard my prayer. You really answered me, even though it was something okay, we're just talking about a fight. But that's when I really tapped into it. And I realized, God, you really protect me. You really are there for me. You really are my friend. It's more than just going to church. And that's when I started to realize it's important to build your own personal relationship with God. It's not about what your parents or what society is telling you. It's about really getting to know God, because it's a relationship, right? And just like any other relationship, it requires work. So I really put in the work to just desire to know God more, and okay, God, you created me. Why am I here? What is my purpose? What am I supposed to be doing? I just tapped into that, and I just realized, aside from his protection and his peace and his grace, I've just seen how he's opened up so many doors for me, because he understands that that's a part of my assignment. That's a part of what I'm supposed to be doing. So I'm just forever grateful. I just really know, I'm not perfect at all. God knows I'm a hot mess. I'll be like, Lord Jesus, so if you could use me, if you can really use me, God, you could really do it for anybody, So I think it's just really building that relationship with God. And I think young people should realize, if your car is broken, if you have a Mercedes-Benz and your car is broken, you're not going to take it to the Apple store, right? You're going to take it to the Mercedes-Benz dealership. So if there's something wrong in your life, you're going to go back to the source, and the source is God. So I think just building that relationship with him and really allowing him to like lead you and guide you would be in your best interest. It's not about being superficial. It's about really just getting to know him. Like you would get to know a boyfriend or a girlfriend, just really investing in that.
So for someone who is just starting to grow their faith, where do they start?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I think it really goes back to spending time and also the motive. Like, why are you doing what you're doing? Sometimes we be in danger. We like, God, I need help. Like, it's almost like that. But I think the main thing should be, why am I seeking after God? Is it because somebody's forcing me to, or because I just, it should be a genuine desire of like, I want to get to know you, God, right? Okay, that could be me just talking to God. Like, I will talk to God like a regular conversation. God, what should I wear today? What should we do? Like my friend, like, or like, I'm really upset about this situation. Reading your Bible, right? Like it's so funny. I was just like, maybe after college or so. And again, I went to church my whole life and I didn't really understand the Bible. Like I just was reading it, but I was like, you know what? It sounds crazy. I had to like get a kid's Bible because I was like, I think that's the only way this is really going to make sense to me. Like, if a kid could understand it, I could, because it was just so complicated. And I got a Bible that I could read and understand and it made sense, and obviously finding a church that you resonate with, finding a church that could teach you things, just like going to school, just like doing anything. You might say that I don't like this teacher, but you won't drop out of school. Right. You're going to find a teacher that you resonate with, So finding a pastor or a leader that you could really resonate with, just taking baby steps and just asking God to help you every day.
That make a lot of sense. And I asked that question because I feel like so many people don't know where to start.
Yeah.
Or don't know how to start. Right. And then like, a lot of people ask, how do you even know, like, from praying and prayer, how do you even know when your prayers are being answered?
Right. And that's a good question. And, I think it's also important to note that God is not a genie, right? Sometimes we feel like, well, God, I prayed for this, you didn't answer it, God is not a genie. At the end of the day, I think God sees your heart. And I was actually just having this conversation yesterday with someone, and I said, sometimes we could see people on the outward doing so much. Oh, we go to church, we do this, but you don't know their heart. Maybe they really don't have the desire. You can see somebody who's not going to church every day, who maybe doesn't seem like the most Christian or spiritual, but their heart is in the right place. God can work with that, So I do think that a lot of times we misjudge and misread, what we see. I do believe that God is not a God of confusion. He sees your heart. At the end of the day, we can't really always question him because he's mysterious in that sense. And not saying that you shouldn't ask questions, but I think his ways, it says in the Bible, his ways are not our ways. So some things, it's almost like a 2-year-old coming to you. Well, why can't I do? You wouldn't understand as a 2-year-old compared to as a 31, 32-year-old. It's just certain things that's past your understanding, So some things you will have to just give to God. Like, I don't understand. I don't know why, but I trust you. I trust that you know why this happened. And God, again, sees the people's hearts. So he knows. Maybe on the outward, this person looked like a good Christian, but they were far away from Christ. They were living in a whole different type of envy, pride. Like, there's a lot of things, the heart check. So you always want to make sure your heart is in the right place.
That's true. And that kind of ties with, like, the quote of having faith.
Yes.
Like, for me, I feel like a lot of times where I used to pray, and then I knew, like, the prayers was answered when certain doors started to close, or certain doors started to open.
Exactly.
And I'm like, sometimes you could just give that credit to the person that opened the door. But sometimes, I knew it was deeper than what I was seeing in front of me. So I'm like, okay, I was praying about this for weeks, and then now here go this door that's opening up for me. And I'm like, even like doing a podcast, it started with accepting a role in a school. Right. And then it came with so much more other things, so you just never know. Like, I want my voice to be bigger. I used to tell God in my prayers, like, I know what I'm doing is special, and I want to connect more.
Exactly.
But then I'm like, man, I'm just teaching in my classroom. It's not enough. And then next thing you know, oh, here go the podcast, here go Dame Dad, here go.
Yes.
So it's like, that's one way. That's why I wanted to have you up here to talk about that.
No, and that's a good question. I was going to just add to that. I remember I had a job years ago when I just got out of college, and I was broke. Like, I ain't have nothing. And I didn't even have money for lunch that day. And I was like, God, I'm so hungry. Like, how am I going to eat lunch? I ain't bring nothing from home. That was the day my job was like, hey, everybody, we have lunch in the office. And I'm just like, wow, God, like, even something as small as that, you know what I mean? I was like, God, nah, that was you right there. because you know I ain't have it.
So for somebody like you, right? You're like a bubbly, happy person, right? So everybody always gonna assume that it's always good. You know what I mean? It's always right. So how do you keep your faith when things aren't going so good? You know, because like Juliet having a bad day, even me, I'm like, Juliet don't have no bad days. You know what I mean? So I know you probably do. You know, you're human. Yeah. So how do you keep your faith when you like, man, okay, this way, this didn't work, that didn't work, this person didn't treat me, so this, you know what I mean? So how do you?
No, that's a good one. And I've honestly, as much as, on the outward may seem that way, I've experienced so many things with people and hurt and disappointment and people promising you things, even in the industry, and just seeing so many things. People let even your own family, like, or like hating and jealous. It's like all these things. I'm like, I would never do that. Like, I don't understand, and it's really hurtful. Let's being transparent. It hurts. It hurts. It hurts. Like, it's not fun. I'm the type of person, like, I won't go on social media and rant about it or whatever, but it hurts. Inwardly, it really does hurt. And it sometimes, bothers me. But I'm learning that at the end of the day, like I always say this quote, and people may not love it, but I always say everything happens for a reason. And I'm like a firm believer in that. And I realized that God allows me to go through that to teach me things, right? Because sometimes, oh God, I want to be more patient. I want to be more understanding. You can't go to school for that. It's situations that happen that build that up in you, and I'm realizing the assignment God has given me, I cannot, I can't allow those things to bother me so much, even though it really does. I've just learned that at the end of the day, God, my heart. If I've said something that may have offended somebody, that wasn't my intention. Or when I get disappointed, when they're like, oh yeah, we're going to do this, and it doesn't happen. God, you know why. Like, I try not to put too much. I don't try to be so like married to anything in terms of like, oh, it has to be this way, or because I really don't know. Maybe God is saving me from something, or saving me from a friendship, or saving me from something that could have hurt me, and even when I get disappointed, I go back to God. I'm like, you know what, God, like, I have real talks with God. Like, God, this is ghetto. This is not cute. Like, what is this? Like, it's embarrassing.
So it sounds like one way that you keep your faith is by like understanding that everything happens for a reason.
Exactly. That's been my mantra. That changed my whole mindset. You could go to the spa, you could go shopping, you could do all that, but you have to change your mindset.
Mm-hmm. So everything happens for a reason.
Everything.
I like that quote. A lot of people use it. Yeah. All right, so let's get into some more of the fun stuff. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, not saying God's not fun.
No.
You know what I mean? I'm just saying, like, you got a lot of, I seen the cooking show.
Yes.
I seen the movie. I was on the podcast with you. Like,
hey, so, shout out to Romeo.
Let me ask you this question. How did you first develop your acting skills?
I was going to say I didn't. No. Honestly, I grew up as a theater kid. Like, that was the one thing I begged my parents, like, please, can you take me to theater? Like, can I please, like, do this? And I think for me, it was funny when I watched, the first movie I watched was Bad Boys. And I was like, I want to do that. Like, I want to be in that movie. And I went to the bathroom and I did the whole scene in the bathroom. Like, so that's when I really knew, like, I loved acting. So I would just put myself out there, right? Doing theater shows. I would do things for free as long as, like, I see it as, it's good practice for me. I did shows for free. I did a whole bunch of things just to build up my acting skills. And I learned from other people. So I didn't go to school for it, but I just learned from being on set, learned from other people, different techniques and things like that to just brush up on my acting. And I don't think I've arrived, right? Like, I think I could still be better and do better. But I think it's important to, like, anything you do, just really focus and own it. You don't necessarily have to go to school for things, just like being a dancer. You may not have gone to school to be a professional dancer, but it comes naturally to you. You know what I mean? But you can always perfect it.
Being so positive, do you ever have doubtful moments?
Child, all the time. I'm like, God, you sure I can do this? Because I don't know if I'd be like, Juliet, you sure? Why did you sign up for this? And I definitely do. I do believe that God has given me a lot, like, and that's not to brag or anything. I feel like I am very much like, there's so much. I'm like, dang, they haven't even seen it yet. They don't know what I'm about to drop, like, I'm about to really inspire people. I really want to help.
Sound like me when I got a new mixtape out.
Like, y'all even know what's coming for y'all. About to wipe the crust out your eyes and drop it, but I definitely do have doubtful moments where I'm like, am I sure I could do this? Or like, there's so many people that's more qualified in this room than me, but I have a confidence level. I'm like, I don't care. Like, what I have to offer is different, regardless if it's just like, if you have a clothing line, 100 people can have a white t-shirt, but there's a reason why you went to that brand, or you pick that one. It's like a cup or a glass of water. Like, there's so many bottles of water. Why you pick Poland? Why did you pick Fiji? Why did you pick, Smart Water? So I do think that you have to be confident in yourself, even when you're doubtful. Be like, well, I'm here. you got to shake it off. I'm not saying that it's not a real thing, but if you let that doubt, I feel like the enemy uses that to make you feel like you can't do it. You can't do it. Why are you here? Why are you here? Just stop. But there's so many people who are waiting on your obedience. There's so many people who are waiting for you to start this podcast, right? Start your music, do all that you're doing, right? We're talking about that. Like, if we decide to say that because I'm afraid, I don't want to do that, there's so many people who probably would never be blessed by what you're doing, so it's much bigger than you. So when you see it, that it's much bigger than me, that it's a whole, divine thing, then it is like, no, I can't doubt myself. I can't allow what I'm feeling and this emotion to stop me from where I gotta go, So I think that to me is, I just gotta always check myself.
I like that. So thinking about what you just said reminds me of a question that I love to ask everyone.
Yes.
I work with the youth, and I feel like a big thing that everyone is kind of like lacking in is like this word of passion, like finding your passion. So how do you find your passion, and what's yours?
That's a good question. Yeah, finding your passion, that's a good question. I do think that it kind of ties in a bit to, I would say, some of your hobbies, right? The things that you naturally love to do, right? Like the things that come natural to you. I think that's a good way to tap into see. And it can't be like sleeping and eating, like it has to be like, maybe there's something in you that you love to do, and you could do it effortlessly. Like even if I didn't get paid to do it, even if nobody knew who I was, I would still love doing this. I think when it doesn't become fun anymore, that to me is when it's like, it doesn't mean there won't be times that it's hard and difficult, but when that fun piece gets out of it, then it's like you start to lose the zeal for it. So I think it goes back to just looking at your hobbies, looking at the things that you naturally love to do, the things that drive you, like if somebody said, hey, come do this, you would jump and get excited about it. I think that's a good way to kind of see where your passion and your hobbies lie. And also just the reason why you're doing it. It shouldn't be for the money and the fame and all that. Like that to me is very superficial, and that could dry up quick.
That's dope. That was a great answer. Hope y'all was paying attention.
I hope y'all listen to Mr. Neely.
We're gonna spice it up a little bit. So
let's get
few of my cousins.
Hey.
I got some of the fellas in the studio with us right now, and they always, asking me like, "Yo, how do you find a woman, God, or positive woman, or you know what I mean?"
Now.
And I feel like you stand for a lot of those great qualities.
Thank you.
For the fellas in the building, what kind of traits do you look for in a man?
Oh, that's a good question. That's a really good question. I mean, I think for me, it's definitely changed over the years, child. Like I want a bad boy. But I definitely, a little edge. I do think a man of God, like a man who literally has a relationship with God, not because of me, but because he wants to get to know God. It doesn't mean he needs to be on the same level, but just he has his own personal relationship with God that doesn't involve me, and then we could come together. I definitely think a man who's driven, right? I think he may not have all the money right now. He may not have all the whatever right now. That's very minimal, right? It's important, but he can have all the money, but does he have a drive? Like, right? What's his ambition? What does he want to do? Because he cannot be a millionaire today, but his drive, his ideas can make him a billionaire tomorrow. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So you can't look so much on the right now. What is his mindset about life? What does he see money? Like somebody that's responsible, somebody that's confident. I definitely love silly guys, somebody you can laugh with, be yourself, be goofy with. And I just think that confidence, that's really a game changer for me. Definitely somebody you could just be yourself with and who's supportive, right? Who's going to support your vision and dream and who's going to be your biggest cheerleader. So I think that's important. And I would lastly say just be yourself.
There we go.
Right? Just be yourself.
All right, fellas, you heard that.
Come on now. I'm dropping gems right now.
Now, statistics say that there are a lot more single women than men.
That's true.
Why do you think it's like that right now?
Whew, that's a good one, child. Because these men in these streets now. No, you know what's crazy? I was having this conversation. I'm like, what is going on? I think what it is too, people are just not settling, I guess. I think
a lot of information out here now.
Yeah, I think actually a good piece of it is social media. I personally think, you comparing, oh, well, my boyfriend didn't do this. My husband don't do this. Well, I don't want to be with him because he can't. It's just like all this unnecessary, because I'm pretty sure if there was no social media, a lot of people would probably been married. Because nobody's looking or seeing anything. Yeah. There's nothing for you to see that, oh, my husband didn't do this on Valentine's Day. Yeah. Or there's nothing. You just live your life, So I do think a lot of it is social media. I think people have this also fantasy, right? Of what a husband or what a boyfriend should be. You're comparing somebody else's, narrative on social media to the standard of your life. And you can't do that, because there could be a really great guy your way who may not look like somebody else's fiance or husband, but he is what God has given you because that's who you are and that's who he is. And you guys work well together, so I think it's important that, and also the guys too, I think the guys, they feel like, well, hey, I don't want to settle. It's also men don't want to settle too. It's like, why you don't want to settle? What's wrong with y'all? What you guys afraid of? So I do think everybody has this fear of, I don't want to get hurt and I don't know you. And, and look, you can know somebody forever and ever, whatever, 10 years. It's still a risk.
It's risk.
Regardless,
it's risk
with everything, it's a risk, So if you want to be married, I also say don't put so much pressure on yourself too. Don't put so much pressure like that's it, because marriage just doesn't fix everything. Okay. It's not the end all.
All right. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Now, this part of the show is called the Putting You On segment. Can you just share with us maybe like a book, movie, a podcast, anything that just helps you stay positive, help you stay motivated, that you can share with the audience, so they can maybe pick that up, press play on that. Like I said, song, book, movie, anything.
That's a good one. That's a really, really good one. I like that question a lot, actually. I will say that in terms of, for me right now, like I honestly feel like, what book am I reading? I'm actually reading, it's funny, I'm actually reading one of my good friends' book, Shakira Thomas. It's called Life with God. You guys should definitely check out her book. It's called Life with God. I'm also reading another book. Whoa.
Only one.
Oh, you see how you see I try to drop that. I try to help y'all ladies.
The reason why, right? Because when I asked this question, I really wanted to be geared towards your favorite. This one right here.
Yeah. No, that's true.
For me, it's certain songs.
Yours?
This one right here, though. I got a million songs I love, but this one right here.
So what's this one?
See, for me right now, it's a new rapper. Not new. YFN Lucci is his name. He's actually locked up. He's from Atlanta, but he got this song called Patience, and it's I listen to that every time in the morning time because it's he just talks about doing something for so long, working so hard, and he finally made it. Unfortunately, he locked up right now, but he finally got to that point where it's I've been doing this for so long, and he's telling us patience really does work. So I love that record because it's one, he actually became who he wanted to be, but he put his heart in that, telling us you can do it, but you really have to have that patience.
Wow, that's actually dope. Thank you for sharing that, because that to me is even the patience part that's important, and we don't sometimes have enough patience, so we want to rush ahead of the process.
Right.
So, but yeah, Shakira Thomas, Life with God. Make sure y'all check it out. It's my friend's book.
There we go. All right, and to end the show, we always end with 3 key takeaways. So if your life was a movie, which is probably gonna be one day, I know you still got some steps left. You know what I mean? But if we had 3 key takeaways from watching your movie or reading your book, what would be those 3 key takeaways from your life story thus far?
Ooh, that's a good one. I would say my 3 top takeaways. The first one would be to trust the process.
Ooh, like that.
Yeah, trust the process. Really, really trust the process. The second one is, it's kind of in line, but just don't give up, right? Just don't give up. And the last part I would say is to just have fun, to really have fun and enjoy it, because you don't get those years back.
Ooh, I like that. Okay, y'all, make sure y'all write those down.
Yeah.
And let's end with this. Right now, Juliet is
happy.
And there you have it, y'all. Another episode, How to Beat the Streets podcast.
Pissy elevators, shitty hallways, only $1, split it 4 ways. Credit in the store, needles on the floor,
If I had one wish, I wish for more.
Nobody cares, so we thuggin' and bucket. A new body every week, but we act like it's nothing. Family don't even matter. He'd clap at his cousin. We all come from the struggle. Why you out here frontin'? Yeah, can you feel the pain? Do you hear the rain? All this trauma in me, running through my brain. All I see is red. Daddy in the feds. All these rappers getting shot, so everybody dead.